How's it going, my little Peters? Today I'm here to talk about my history with spice, but first, thank you all for 69 subs and all the support on the channel. It means a lot to me, and if you like these types of videos, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. So to kick things off, let me tell y'all a little something. This is my first time ever smoking anything at all, or taking any drug for that matter. I don't consider marijuana a drug, but I've never even smoked weed at this point, let alone anything else. Except cigarettes. But that's an interesting story for a different time. All things considered, spice is definitely not a drug I recommend for a first timer, nor do I recommend anyone take drugs. But that's no fun, right? Alright, to get things started, it was a frigid, snowy Friday in December, so cold your nipples could cut glass type shit. I was in 7th grade, so that puts me at 13 years old at the time. My birthday's December 28th, so damn near 14. A little off topic here, but for all of you that have birthdays so close to Christmas, did any of you ever experience opening all of your presents on Christmas Day instead of separately? That was kind of whack because it made my birthday feel less significant, so now I really don't care to celebrate or anything. Anyways, let's get back to the story. I had made plans with my cousin Brock, who passed away last May. Rest in peace. I'm dedicating this one to him. So we made plans for me to come over and stay for the weekend, as we usually would. It was a pretty common thing we'd do. Going over to his place was generally a much better time though, as we had freedom to pretty much do whatever we wanted. Though we usually just chilled in the garage and fucked about in this small town he lived in. So it's about 4 p.m. and my aunt rolled up to my house and we headed out to their place. This was supposed to be just like any other weekend where we would just chill and play some games in the garage. The garage had a couch, TV, pool table, and some other irrelevant shit. We would usually just chill in there and play Guitar Hero 3 on PS2, which was our shit. Watch our shit, look at our shit. That's a Lee Russell Vice Principal reference if you didn't get that. You should watch that show, it's a good show. HBO Max. Not sponsored. During this particular weekend, my dad was actually staying over there as well, because he had just lost his house and was staying with them for a bit to get back on his feet. My dad and I talked previously, so he knew I was coming over. This weekend, however, was a special circumstance, because he told me he was finally able to rent us Black Ops 2 from Redbox, which he'd been trying to for weeks at this point, and neither of us had even played Black Ops 2 yet. It had just been released probably a month prior to this weekend. As far as myself, I couldn't even play Black Ops 2 yet if I wanted to, because I was getting it for Christmas, which of course hadn't rolled around yet. Brock couldn't play BO2 either, because the only consoles that he owned were a PS2 and an original Xbox. So the only reason we were able to actually play BO2 was on my dad's 360 with the rented copy of BO2 from Redbox. So he hooked up the 360 in the garage so we were able to play. In fact, Brock only ever played COD when he was over at my dad's house, and we played hella Black Ops 1. So he was definitely into COD just as much as I was. So we were both stoked to be able to check out BO2 together for the first time. Anyways, we arrived at his house at about 4:20, coincidentally. My aunt left shortly after we got back, as she actually had to head out for work. My uncle wasn't home either. I can't remember if it was work related or if he was just hanging out with some of his buddies. Either way, my dad was home though, but he never really bothered us. Big props to him, because he always just let us do our thing, even back at his place, when he still owned it. Enough talk about my dad. He'll be coming back up later on in the story, don't you worry. So we're chilling in the garage, having a blast playing BO2 for the first time, and Brock said to me, so my buddy, we'll call him Jimmy, is coming over. He's a good friend of mine. I had never met Jimmy before in my entire life, as this was someone Brock knew from school, and his parents didn't like him hanging around because he was always getting into some sort of trouble. Therefore, Jimmy was never around when I came to stay the weekend. Even after this, I'd only hung around him a handful of times. He's the homie though, we had some good times. Anyways, I was like, yeah, that's cool, I'm down to meet this friend of yours. What neither of us knew was, Jimmy was bringing us something a little special. Jimmy arrived around 5:30, we met, things were all good. It was as if I met him before, he was that chill. We started bullshitting and all that, and he was like, hey guys, I brought some weed, you trying to smoke? I immediately hopped on board, I was like, fuck yeah, I've never smoked before, but I've always wanted to. Brock was very hesitant though. He didn't really want to smoke or do anything against the grain because he was very paranoid about getting caught by his parents. But I didn't give a fuck. I eventually talked him into it, peer pressure. So Jimmy whips out this little blue package with the yellow and red kite on it out of his hoodie pocket. He was like, this is some good shit. It's called Strawberry Kite. What Jimmy then realized after he took out the smoke is that he didn't bring anything to smoke out of. None of us had a piece, wraps, or anything. We were shit out of luck. So Jimmy had to get crafty. Jimmy decided he was going to make a homemade water bong. So after rummaging around in the garage, he found this water bottle with a push-pull cap on it with the handle. Brock saw that water bottle in his hand. He was like, yo, that's my dad's water bottle he uses for work. We should have used that. I could get in trouble if that goes missing. And we explained to him just to fabricate a story. It's not that big of a deal. It's pretty easy, in my opinion, to get out of a simple situation like that. But anyways, we tried searching for something else. But we wanted to hurry up and smoke because my aunt got off work at 10. We were racing against time here. Not to mention, we wanted to try and be sobered up enough so we weren't fucked out when she got home. So we ended up using my uncle's water bottle in order to make a bong. Jimmy banged that shit out like Houdini into a perfect water bong. This dude was seriously crafty. He was in Boy Scouts and Eagle Scouts and shit like that for I don't know how long. So he knew what he was doing. So once Jimmy got the bong all set up and everything, he starts packing this bong with what we thought was weed, right? Brock and I found out from Jimmy later that this wasn't at all weed, but it was actually spice. So Jimmy lights up and takes a fat hit from the poor man's bong and attempts to pass it to Brock, but he kind of pussied out at first. So instead he passed it to me. Jimmy was all like, yeah, take a few good hits off of it so you really feel the effects. So I took a few good hits off of it and coughed my goddamn lungs out as I've never smoked before. I didn't know how to inhale properly or nothing like that. So eventually I passed the bong over to Brock and once again had to talk him into taking a few hits so we can all be high together. He eventually takes a few smacks and at this point it's cashed. So now we're all three just sitting on the couch playing some BO2, waiting for things to start kicking in. I remember we started up a game of bots on Hijack because we just wanted to play the game. Like we didn't want to worry about teammates and in general other people since this was the first time Brock and I were getting high. Like we didn't know what to expect. About 10 minutes into the bot massacre, it started hitting us like a ton of bricks. Brock and I looked over at each other and we just started laughing hysterically. We had never laughed so hard for so long in our entire lives. This went on for like a good 20 minutes or so. We just could not stop laughing. It was literally impossible. After the laughing phase was over, we decided we were all getting pretty hungry. Brock was like, we got some Doritos in the kitchen, but there's no way in hell I'm going in there to get them. I don't even think I could stand up right now. I, like a dumbass, said, fuck it, I'll go grab the Doritos real quick, it's not that big of a deal. Turns out, I couldn't get up either. I was having big issues even standing up, like my legs were made of jello or something. But I was determined to get those Doritos as I was a fat boy sitting at almost 300 pounds at the time, and I hadn't eaten for a few hours. I was basically desperate, call me Starvin' Marvin. I shit you guys not, it took me probably a good 30 minutes to get from the couch to the stairs leading up into the kitchen. Which were only like 15 feet away or so it wasn't like, it was that long of a distance by any means. Like, trying to walk, it almost felt like as if I was drunk or something. I was stumbling so bad trying to get to these steps, it was ridiculous. But eventually I made it to those steps. Now, getting to the steps, I won the battle. But now I had to go to war. Getting up these steps was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life. I had to sit my ass down on the first step and push myself up each step using my arms to get to the top. I was able to eventually pull myself to my feet using the door handle that led into the kitchen. So when I finally got up the steps and made it back on my feet, I thought to myself, our hunger was about to be satisfied, right? We're about to be destroying some Doritos. So I opened the door leading into the kitchen and was immediately greeted by my dad. My dad was standing right in the middle of the kitchen, and the Doritos were on the counter just past him to the left. I had no idea how I even talked to my dad. We had a small conversation. I didn't even make him suspicious at all though, to my knowledge. But my dad wasn't much of a talker anyways. He asked me pretty much like, what we were doing, what I was doing back inside, I told him I was grabbing some Doritos because we got hungry, and that was pretty much that. I grabbed the Doritos off the counter, did a 180, and went out the door to be greeted by those goddamn steps again. Listen, I already fought World War I, and now it's time for World War II. And thank fuck I figured out the strat to get up the stairs. I just had to do the same thing in reverse type shit, you feel me? Getting down the steps, though, was somehow more difficult. I don't know how. I feel like that doesn't make any sense. But anyways, I sat my ass down. I pushed myself with my arms down each step. And when I got down to the last step, it felt like I couldn't step down to the ground because it felt like I was higher up than I was. So I sat there for a few minutes like, how am I going to do this, What the hell am I going to do? How am I going to get up on my feet? Of course, Jimmy and Brock were like, yo, you good, bro? They were laughing it up, they were having a heyday. I honestly was too. I started laughing my ass off. We found the whole situation hysterical. I finally got off the stairs and stumbled my way back to the couch so we could all absolutely demolish this bag of Doritos. A few hours passed by at this point. It's about 8 p.m., and we're starting to hear a car pull up into the driveway. We started bugging, dude. But none of us even said a word. It was purely just facial expressions. We were in a state of shock. Before we knew it, my aunt walked into the garage. The entrance was just to the left of those godforsaken steps, so she wasn't exactly close to us by any means. We had no clue what in the world was about to happen to us. I personally felt like that almost sobered me up for a brief moment. It was that intense. Like, we all thought she was going to come over to see what we were up to like she usually does, but instead she literally just went right up the steps into the house. We were all floored. We couldn't believe we just flew under the radar like that. It was unbelievable what we just got away with. Anyways, as we're chilling on the couch, a few more hours passed by and we started to come down off the spice. We all made our way inside into the living room. We found something good on TV to watch while we laid down to go to sleep. And that's when we move into the next day. So the next day rolled around and Jimmy and I woke up around the same time, but Brock was still asleep. Jimmy and I naturally started messing with him to try and wake him up, right? We were ready to get this day rolling. Jimmy and I were absolutely clowning on Brock. We were throwing blankets on him, we put pillows on him, we threw clothes at him, we were trying to do anything in our power to wake this guy up. Eventually, Jimmy grabs the ball and threw it as hard as he could at him, and that did the trick. So good in fact, Brock woke up pissed. I'm surprised he didn't start swinging on Jimmy or something. It was hilarious. So we started our day out with some grub, and we tried to figure out what we wanted to do that day. Jimmy came up with this bright idea that we were all going to walk down this road that would lead us to a bridge which we could smoke under since my aunt and uncle were home at the time. So we did exactly that. Mind you, it was broad daylight outside, probably about 1 p.m. at this point. We started walking down this road. It took us a good 30 minutes to get to this bridge as it was just outside of town. Keep in mind, it was dummy cold outside. It had snowed recently, so there wasn't only snow, but there was ice as well. We get to this bridge and we realize, fuck, this area is covered in ice. It reminded me of that episode of SpongeBob where Plankton turned down the thermostat in the Krusty Krab and the floor turned to ice. I'm surprised we didn't all slip like SpongeBob. You guys know the meme. That didn't stop us though. All we had to do was slide down to the bottom, it wasn't that difficult. It wasn't very far down, maybe a couple feet. So we all slid down and made it to the bottom, and Jimmy pulled out the goodies. So we light up and we start smoking under this bridge. Not only was it pretty sketchy smoking under this bridge in the middle of the day, but also there was a ton of cars passing over us. It was pretty wild. Once we were done smoking, we decided to bail from the bridge spot and head back to Brock's house. Let me tell you something. Remember that ice I was talking about earlier? That became a huge obstacle for us, considering we just got fucked up on some spice. I thought the stairs in the garage were World War II. Well, this ice just jumped straight to World War IV. Jimmy and Brock were able to get up fairly easily. They were in pretty good shape, whereas I was obese. I struggled for a few minutes, continuously slipping on the ice, trying to get my high, beefy boy ass up this incline. I eventually got myself back up and on my feet, and we started walking back to his house, although it was more so like stumbling. This was one of the most intense things I've ever done in my life. I've taken walks after dosing multiple tabs of acid. Hell, I've done DMT, and this walk felt more extreme. The way we were walking made it pretty damn obvious that we were on something, but we never got messed with. I have no idea how. When a car passed by us, to me it felt like a train just went down the fucking street. The wind and the noise of the cars literally felt like I was walking down a set of train tracks as a train was going by. Despite everything, we all made it back home successfully. Nothing else really happened that night, but it was the next day where things got even more interesting. Moving on to Sunday, we woke up and Jimmy decided he wanted to go re-up at this trailer park in town called Cozy Court, because the day before we smoked up the rest of his spice. But trust me when I say this court was not cozy. This trailer park housed many fucked out people. And of course, Jimmy wanted to take the fucking longest way possible. He wanted to go down to this train trestle just past the bridge we smoked under the previous day. Brock and I were definitely hesitant, as it was a pretty damn far walk. But realistically, we had nothing else better to do, other than play BO2 of course. So we decided, fuck it, let's make the trip, So we make it to this bridge, and now we have to get off the road and head to the right so we could trespass through this person's huge ass yard to get to the trestle. Funny thing is, years later, they put up a fence to prevent people from going over there, so this isn't something that can even really be done anymore. Anyways, Jimmy decided we should all go to this spot where we can get underneath the tracks. Jimmy wanted to chill underneath the train tracks to wait for a train to pass over us because that was his idea of a fun time. So we make it to the spot he was talking about, and he shows us how we could squeeze underneath this structure to be able to sit just underneath the tracks. So we slid under on our backs one by one, and there was a fucking shitload of dust and debris, so we all got pretty dirty sliding underneath. After sliding through, there was a spot to sit at where the tracks were literally just above our heads, like a few inches above our heads, mind you. We waited there for a good amount of time before we started hearing the train blow its whistle. This thing was fucking soaring down these tracks, bro. And before we knew it, the train was going over us, and it was fucking powerful. The noises that were being made were some of the most catastrophic sounds I've ever heard. I mean, it was loud as shit. Not only was the train causing deafening noise and shaking the tracks above us, but it was also flinging rocks and shit all around us too. Definitely dangerous, but an experience I'm happy to have been a part of. The train eventually passed by. We were all fine and well. We got out of the spot and made our way towards Cozy Court. And I swear to God, it took us like over 2 hours after everything was said and done to get there. And as a side note, none of us were dressed appropriately whatsoever for how bitter cold it was outside. Hell, Brock was wearing shorts. Like, I don't know how his dick didn't shrivel up and fall off. So we were all trying to hurry the fuck up and get back home so we could warm up. So we get there and Jimmy heads up to his plug's trailer and goes inside while Brock and I wait outside for him to finish picking up. Jimmy was inside for damn near an hour. At this point, Brock and I were pretty pissed off with him because we were freezing our tits off. Jimmy makes his way back outside and he is fucking lit, dude. Like, I thought he was fucked up when we smoked previously, but this time he was blitzed out of his goddamn mind. We all started to walk towards the main road that led you back into town to head home. And this guy Jimmy was walking and running around like a complete moron. I think it's safe to say he was in Spaceland. Brock and I were worried that we might catch some heat because he was acting sus as fuck. It took us so long that it pretty much was dark outside by the time we got back. So late, in fact, I had to leave pretty much immediately to get back home to get ready for school the next day. I just can't fucking believe I thought I was smoking weed, dude. What a time to be a 7th grader. Anyways, that's the story of when I smoked spice for the first time, / my first experience with drugs. If you had any other similar experiences or funny drug stories, leave them in the comments below. I'll definitely check them out. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more chronicles from my past, leave a like on the video, hit that subscribe button to join the Little Peter Pack so you don't miss out on any stories or videos I post in the future. Thanks for watching, and take care of yourselves.